Ambassador Jack Nelson straightened his tie and took a deep breath as the airlock door slid open. The metal corridor ahead led to what could be the most important meeting in human history. Behind him, Commander Susan Wright adjusted her uniform, her face showing no emotion despite the stakes. "Remember," she whispered, "they respect confidence, not politeness." Nelson nodded. After 20 years of limited contact with the Galactic Concord, humanity had finally been granted formal peace talks. The terms they negotiated today would shape Earth's future among the stars. The corridor opened into a vast chamber aboard Harmony 7, the neutral station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The circular room featured a large table made from something that looked like blue marble but seemed to glow from within. Around it sat 12 representatives from the dominant species of the Concord. High Speaker Voxelith of the Taurian hegemony rose as the humans entered. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on a narrow face, Voxelith made an imposing figure. "The Earth delegation is recognized," Voxelith said, the translator device converting the clicks and whistles into flat English. "Be seated." Nelson and Wright took their places at the table. 2 other human representatives, science advisor Dr. Alan Cooper and cultural attaché Maria Vasquez, sat beside them. "We thank the Concord for this opportunity," Nelson began, his voice steady. "Earth looks forward to establishing peaceful relations and fair trade agreements with all species." Voxelith's upper eyes narrowed. "We will dispense with pleasantries. The Concord has prepared terms for Earth's integration." A holographic document appeared above the table. Nelson leaned forward, reading quickly. His face darkened as he reached the 3rd paragraph. "This isn't a peace treaty," he said carefully. "This would classify Earth as a protectorate with limited self-governance. We cannot accept these terms." "Your acceptance is not required," said another representative, a reptilian being from the Xlar Dominion. "The terms are generous considering humanity's limited development." Nelson kept his expression neutral despite the insult. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. Earth comes to negotiate as equals, not as supplicants." Voxelith made a sound the translator didn't catch. "Equality must be earned. Your species has barely mastered basic interstellar travel. Your colonies extend to only 3 systems. The Concord spans thousands." "With respect," Commander Wright interjected, "technological advancement isn't the only measure of a civilization." "It is the only one that matters," Voxelith replied. As the discussion continued, Wright noticed something concerning. The Concord representatives were exchanging subtle gestures, small movements of their hands and shifts in posture that seemed to carry meaning. These signals weren't recorded in any xenolinguistic database she had studied. Nelson requested time to confer with Earth leadership about the proposed terms. The Concord representatives exchanged glances. "Very well," Voxelith said after a pause. "You have 12 hours. Be advised that delays will be seen as rejection." As they left the chamber, Wright moved close to Nelson. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "They're communicating with each other in ways our translators aren't catching." "I noticed," Nelson replied quietly. "And these terms, they're not just unfavorable, they're impossible. No self-respecting government would agree to them. Almost like they don't expect us to accept," Wright said. Back in their quarters, Nelson established a secure link to Earth. President Michelle Rivera's face appeared on the screen, looking concerned. "That bad?" she asked. "Worse," Nelson replied. "They're not negotiating in good faith. The terms would reduce Earth to a colony in all but name." Rivera's expression hardened. "Then we need to consider activating Silent Threshold." Wright looked between them. "Sir, what is Silent Threshold?" The president and ambassador exchanged looks that sent a chill down Wright's spine. "Let's hope we don't need to find out," Nelson said. "We'll try again tomorrow. Maybe they're just testing us." But as night fell on the station, long-range sensors detected unusual movement among the Concord fleet stationed at the edge of the solar system. The peace talks were already collapsing, and neither side had fired a shot, yet. The second day of talks began with an air of tension. Nelson entered the chamber with Commander Wright at his side. both aware of the unusual movements the Earth sensors had detected from the Concord fleet overnight. "We have reviewed your terms," Nelson said as he took his seat across from Voxelith. "Earth cannot accept protectorate status. We propose instead a treaty of mutual recognition and limited technology exchange." Voxelith's 4 eyes blinked in Terrifies sequence, a gesture Wright had come to recognize as irritation. "Your counter-proposal is rejected. The terms remain as presented." Nelson leaned forward. "Perhaps we could discuss specific points of concern. Surely there is room for compromise." "There is not," said the representative from the Exlar Dominion. "The Concord has determined humanity's place in the galactic order. You would be wise to accept it." The words hung in the air like a threat. Wright watched as the representatives exchanged those same hidden signals she had noticed yesterday. She activated a small recording device in her sleeve, hoping to capture the patterns for later analysis. "If I may," said Dr. Alan Cooper, the science advisor, "Earth has made significant advances in medical technology that could benefit many conquered worlds. We offer this as a gesture of goodwill." For a moment, there seemed to be genuine interest from some of the representatives. A small being with purple skin and large, oval eyes leaned forward. "What sort of medical advances?" "Our treatments for genetic disorders have—" Cooper began, but Voxelith cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Such offerings are irrelevant to these proceedings," the High Speaker said. "The Concord does not barter for compliance." Wright exchanged a glance with Nelson. The dismissal of such a valuable offering wasn't just poor diplomacy. It suggested the Concord had no interest in actual negotiation. As the hours passed, the tension in the room grew. Every proposal from the human delegation was rejected without consideration. By midday, Nelson called for a recess. Back in their secure room, he sent an encrypted message to Admiral Lisa Holt on Earth. "Negotiations failing. Concord's position inflexible. Recommend preparation level 2. Wright studied the recording of the aliens' subtle movements. "Sir, these signals don't match any known diplomatic protocols. They're coordinating something." Nelson nodded grimly. "I think you're right. And did you notice how quickly Voxelith shut down any discussion of technology exchange? It's almost like they don't want to know what we're capable of." "Or they already believe they know," Wright said. "What if they've underestimated us?" A beep from the communication panel interrupted them. The face of Admiral Holt appeared, her expression grave. "We've detected 3 Concord warships breaking formation," she reported. "They've changed course toward the Mars colony. No communication, no explanation." Nelson felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Any response from the Concord leadership?" "None." "But there's more," Holt continued. "We've lost contact with our outposts on Europa, Titan, and Ganymede. All 3 simultaneously." Wright's hand moved to her sidearm instinctively. "This isn't a negotiation, it's a distraction." Nelson straightened his jacket. "We're returning to the talks. One last attempt. Admiral, implement silent threshold preparation. Level 3. Holt's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "Understood. God help us all." When they returned to the chamber, Nelson's demeanor had changed. The diplomatic smile was gone, replaced by a hard determination that made even Voxelith pause. "The Concord appears to have misunderstood humanity's position," Nelson said, his voice steady. "Let me be clear. Earth will not be subjugated. We came here in good faith, seeking peace. If peace is not possible, we are prepared for the alternative." Voxelith rose to his full height. "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" "No, High Speaker. Simply a fact. I am instructed to inform you that Earth formally withdraws from these negotiations." As Nelson and his team stood to leave, Concord security forces moved to block the exits. "Security protocols require visitors to remain during heightened alert status," one of them announced. Wright stepped forward. "We are not visitors. We are diplomatic representatives with immunity rights." The guards did not move. Wright's hand slid toward her concealed weapon as Nelson's fingers tapped a silent alert code on his wrist communicator. Somewhere in the depths of space, Silent threshold moved from preparation to activation. Wright moved with practiced speed. Her hand flew to her belt and tossed a small device to the floor. A flash of brilliant light filled the room, temporarily blinding the guards. In the confusion, Nelson and his team pushed past the security forces and ran for their shuttle. "Stop them!" Voxelith shouted, but the humans were already through the door. Alarms blared throughout the station as the 4 humans sprinted down the corridor. 2 guards appeared ahead, weapons drawn. "Down!" Wright called. The team dropped as she fired her pulse pistol. The guards fell, stunned but alive. They reached the docking bay and sealed the door behind them. Dr. Cooper worked quickly at the control panel, overriding the station's lockdown protocols. 30 seconds until they break through, he warned. Maria Vasquez, the cultural attaché, was already powering up the shuttle. "Ready when you are." The docking clamps released just as the door began to glow red from cutting tools on the other. So, the shuttle shot away from Harmony 7, accelerating toward the jump point that would take them back to Earth. "They're pursuing," Wright said, watching the scanner. 3 ships closing fast. Nelson activated the emergency transponder. "This is Ambassador Nelson declaring diplomatic emergency. We are under attack by Concord forces in violation of neutral zone agreements." A flash of light erupted behind them as Earth defense ships emerged from the jump point. The Concord pursuers immediately broke off. "Perfect timing," Nelson said with relief. Back on Earth, President Michelle Rivera stood before the United Nations Space Council. The emergency session had drawn representatives from every nation with space capabilities. 3 hours ago, our diplomatic mission was essentially held hostage, she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. Simultaneously, we lost contact with outposts on Europa, Titan, and Ganymede. Long-range sensors show a Concord battle fleet has changed course and is now headed directly for Earth. Murmurs of alarm spread through the room. "The Concord has issued an ultimatum," Rivera continued. "Immediate surrender or face what they call pacification. They have given us 12 hours to respond." The Brazilian representative stood. "What are our options? Their fleet outnumbers ours 10 to 1. "If I may address that," said a calm voice from the side of the chamber. All eyes turned to Admiral Lisa Holt as she walked to the central podium. Her uniform was crisp, her expression confident. "For the past 20 years since our first contact with alien life, Earth has been preparing for this possibility," she said. "Under the code name Silent Threshold, we have developed technologies and strategies unknown to the Concord, or even to most of our own military." Displays around the room activated, showing schematics and deployment plans that made even veteran military officials gasp. "Is this real?" the Chinese representative asked. "Very real," Holt confirmed, "and now fully activated." On the main screen, a satellite image showed the Concord fleet approaching Mars. The red planet looked defenseless with only a small human presence visible. "What they see," Holt explained, "and what exists are 2 very different things." Deep, beneath the surface of Luna Earth's moon, Dr. Olivia Martinez stood in a vast chamber filled with humming equipment. Technicians worked at stations around a central platform, where a pulsing blue light grew steadily brighter. "Quantum displacement network at 90%, reported a young engineer. "All nodes responsive." Martinez nodded. "Begin final sequence." Chiu thought of her family on Earth, of all humanity waiting above. The Concord had greatly underestimated humans. They thought Earth was sending a diplomatic mission out of weakness, unaware that humans had been preparing for this day since they first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. "QD network at full power," announced the engineer. Martinez placed her hand on the activation panel. "Initiate displacement." Throughout the solar system, at precisely calculated points, space itself seemed to ripple. The Concord fleet, now passing the orbit of Mars, detected unusual energy readings. Their sensors struggled to make sense of what was happening. Then, like ghosts materializing from nothing, hundreds of advanced human warships appeared, surrounding the Concord fleet in a perfect sphere of firepower that had, moments ago, simply not existed. On the bridge of the lead Concord vessel, Fleet Commander Zaxel stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where moments ago there had been empty space, now hundreds of human warships surrounded his fleet in a perfect formation. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology isn't advanced enough for this." His second-in-command checked the sensors again. "The ships are real, Commander. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." A communication request flashed on the main screen. Zaxel hesitated, then nodded. Admiral Lisa Holt's face appeared before him. "Concord Fleet, this is Admiral Holt of Earth Defense Force. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent. We came to talk peace. You chose war. We offer one final chance for withdrawal." Zaxel's pride would not allow him to show weakness. "Your trick is impressive, Admiral, but the Concord has conquered species far more advanced than yours. Your ships may be numerous, but they cannot match our firepower or technology." Holt's expression remained neutral. "That is a dangerous assumption to make." The connection ended. Zaxel turned to his weapons officer. "Target the nearest human vessel and fire. Let's see what these ships are really made of." Energy beams lanced out from the Concord flagship, striking a human destroyer. The crew of the Concord ship cheered until the smoke cleared. The human vessel was completely undamaged. "Again!" ordered Zaxel, panic rising in his voice. 3 more Concord ships joined the attack, unleashing their full arsenal. Energy weapons, missiles, and kinetic projectiles all struck the same human ship. When the barrage ended, the human destroyer remained intact, a faint blue field shimmering around its hull. In the United Nations chamber on Earth, officials watched the battle through live feeds. Admiral Holt stepped forward again. "As you can see, the Concord's weapons are ineffective against our defensive technology. Now we will demonstrate our offensive capabilities with restraint." On the screen, a single human ship broke formation. The vessel, smaller than the Concord flagship, moved with impossible speed. "That's the UES determination," Holt explained. "Captain Frank Daniels commanding." The determination positioned itself directly in front of the Concord flagship. A single point of light appeared at the bow of the human ship, then a thin beam of energy, barely visible, shot forth. It struck the Concord vessel with surgical precision. On the Concord bridge, alarms blared. "Propulsion systems offline," reported an officer. "Weapons systems offline. Commander, they've disabled us with a single shot. No casualties reported." Zaxel gripped his command chair. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely able to defend their own planet. His orders had been clear: a show of force, followed by quick subjugation. No one had prepared him for this. Back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Martinez entered the presidential situation room. She carried a small device that she placed on the central table. "The quantum displacement network is fully operational," she reported. "All ships are in position." President Rivera nodded. "And the Jupiter demonstration?" "Ready on your command." Rivera looked around the room at the representatives of Earth's nations. "What we are about to show the Concord must convince them to withdraw. If it doesn't—" She left the sentence unfinished. Everyone understood the stakes. "Proceed," she ordered. In her laboratory beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Martinez's team initiated a sequence of commands. A targeted beam of energy shot from a hidden facility on Earth, racing across the solar system at faster than light speed until it reached an uninhabited moon orbiting Jupiter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the surface of the small moon began to shimmer, as if it were a mirage in a desert. The effect spread quickly, encompassing the entire celestial body. On every Concord ship, sensors and alarms activated as they detected a massive energy spike. The officers and crew watched in stunned silence as the moon, a solid object nearly 3,000 kilometers in diameter, seemed to dissolve before their eyes. And then it was gone. Not destroyed, not broken apart. Simply gone, as if it had never existed. Silence filled the Concord flagship's bridge. No one dared speak as they processed what they had just witnessed. An entire moon, gone in seconds. What? What did they do to it? Zaxel finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His science, Officer looked up from her instruments, her four hands trembling. According to our readings, they created a localized zero-point vacuum collapse. They essentially removed that section of space-time from our reality. Before Zaxel could respond, President Rivera's face appeared on the main screen. Unlike Admiral Holt's military bearing, the president's expression showed a mix of determination and regret. "Fleet Commander," she said, "what you just witnessed was a controlled demonstration of zero-point vacuum manipulation technology. We have lived in fear of extinction since your people first contacted us. We prepared accordingly. We do not seek war, but we will not accept subjugation." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. The moon was uninhabited. No life was harmed. But make no mistake, we could have targeted your fleet instead. In the United Nations chamber, Rivera continued speaking to both the Concord and the watching Earth officials. For 20 years, humanity has known we are not alone in the universe. For 20 years, we have reached out with offers of friendship and cooperation. And for 20 years, we have been met with suspicion and threats. Images appeared on screens around the room, records of previous human attempts at peaceful contact, all rejected or ignored by the Concord. We knew this day might come, Rivera said. So while we extended one hand in friendship, we prepared the other for our defense. Not because we wanted war, but because we hoped to prevent it. On the Concord flagship, Zaxel struggled to maintain his composure. His orders had been clear. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel. He had been sent to subjugate an easy target, not face a species with technology that surpassed even the most advanced Concord capabilities. "High Command misled us," his second-in-command said quietly. "Or they didn't know." Zaxel made his decision. "Open a channel to all Concord vessels." When the connection was established, he spoke with as much dignity as he could muster. "This is Fleet Commander Zaxel. All ships are ordered to stand down. I repeat, stand down. Do not fire upon the human vessels under any circumstances." He then addressed Admiral Holt. "Admiral, I request time to communicate with Concord High Command regarding this development." "Granted," Holt replied. "You have 6 hours. Your fleet may remain in its current position, but any attempt to move closer to Earth or to deploy weapons will be met with immediate response." As the Concord fleet went quiet, news of the confrontation spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. On the Concord capital world, High Speaker Voxelith was summoned to an emergency session of the ruling council. "Explain yourself," demanded Elder Counselor Krav of the Meridian Federation. "You assured us humans were primitive and aggressive. You claimed they needed to be controlled before they became a threat. Yet reports indicate they possess technology far beyond our own." Voxelith's upper eyes narrowed. "The reports must be exaggerated. It's impossible." "We have visual confirmation," interrupted another counselor. "The humans removed a moon from existence with a technology we cannot even comprehend, and rather than destroying the fleet we sent to threaten them, they disabled a single ship and issued a warning." Elder Krav leaned forward. "This suggests not only advanced technology but also restraint, the opposite of what you described." Back on Earth in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Ambassador Jack Nelson watched the recordings of the confrontation. Despite the tension, a small smile formed on his face. "You know," he said to Commander Wright, who stood beside him, "when we started the Silent Threshold program all those years ago, I hoped we'd never have to use it." Wright nodded. "The best deterrent is one you never have to deploy." And yet here we are. Nelson sighed. "At least now they know." "Know what?" "That humanity won't be pushed around. That we come in peace, but we come prepared." The screens showed the Concord fleet surrounded by human ships, frozen in a tableau that would soon change the course of galactic politics forever. News spread rapidly throughout the 27 species of the Galactic Concord. Information networks buzzed with reports, some accurate, others wildly exaggerated. On 12 worlds, public demonstrations erupted, demanding explanations from their governments. On the peaceful world of Lyria, home to one of the oldest Concord species, Representative Mila Tor addressed her planet's governing council. For too long, the Taurian hegemony has pushed aggressive policies within the Concord, she said. This confrontation with humans was inevitable given their approach. Similar conversations happened across the galaxy as the balance of power shifted. Species that had been bullied by the dominant Taurians saw an opportunity in this new development. 6. Hours after ordering his fleet to stand down, Fleet Commander Zaxel received a response from Concord High Command, a response that surprised him. "Withdraw immediately," the message read. "Avoid further provocation of Earth forces. Return to Concord space via alternate routes." Zaxel had expected orders to hold position, or even to attack, despite the humans' display of power. This retreat was unprecedented in Concord military history. "Send acknowledgement," he told his communications officer. "Prepare the fleet for departure." He then opened a channel to Admiral Holt. "Admiral, we have received orders to withdraw from your system. We will depart within the hour." Holt's expression remained neutral. "We will monitor your exit. Safe journey, Commander." The exchange was brief, professional. Neither mentioned the moon that no longer existed, or the disabled Concord flagship that now required a tow from its companion vessels. On Earth, the United Nations Space Council remained in emergency session. Admiral Holt reported the Concord decision to withdraw. "They're leaving," she confirmed. "All ships, including their disabled flagship." A murmur of relief spread through the chamber. President Rivera stood. "This is only the beginning," she cautioned. "The Concord will reassess its understanding of humanity. What happens next will determine our place in the galaxy for generations to come." Ambassador Nelson stepped forward. "Madam President, I recommend we prepare a new diplomatic initiative, one that makes our position clear from the outset." "Agreed. And who should lead this initiative, Ambassador?" Nelson smiled slightly. "I believe Commander Wright demonstrated remarkable insight during our recent negotiations. I recommend her for the role." In the observation room above the chamber, Susan Wright watched the proceedings with surprise. She had expected to return to her military duties, not to be thrust into a diplomatic position. Dr. Olivia Martinez joined her. "Looks like you're getting a promotion." Wright shook her head. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat." "After what happened, I think the lines between those roles have blurred," Martinez replied. "Besides, you recognized what the Concord was really doing before anyone else." Throughout the solar system, human ships maintained their positions as the Concord fleet gradually moved away. The quantum displacement network remained active, ready to respond if the withdrawal proved to be a deception. In the depths of the Luna facility, technicians monitored every movement. One called Martinez on a secure line. "Doctor, we're detecting unusual energy patterns from the site of the demonstration." Martinez frowned. "What kind of patterns?" "It appears the space-time fabric is healing itself. The area we removed is slowly being reintegrated into normal space." Martinez hadn't expected this. The calculations had suggested a permanent effect. This self-healing property of space-time was a new discovery, one with profound implications. In the Concord capital, the political fallout intensified. High Speaker Voxelith found himself fighting for his position as more species demanded answers. How had the Taurians so badly misjudged humanity? Was it incompetence or deliberate deception? "The reports were clear," insisted Krav of the Meridian Federation. "Multiple scouts observed human technology. You chose to ignore those that didn't fit your narrative." Voxelith's supporters were quickly abandoning him as evidence mounted of systemic manipulation of intelligence about Earth. Meanwhile, on a secure, Concord communication channel, representatives from 8 species, all considered minor powers within the Concord, held a private discussion. "If humans truly possess this technology," said one, "perhaps it's time we reconsidered our alliances." Another agreed. "The Taurians have dominated the Concord for too long. Humanity could be the counterbalance we've needed." The galaxy was changing, all because peace talks had collapsed, and humanity's response had terrified the Galactic Concord to its core. 2 weeks after the Concord fleet's retreat, humanity prepared to address the wider galactic community. The United Nations had selected a small team to represent Earth, led by the newly appointed ambassador Susan Wright. "I still think this is a mistake," Wright told Nelson as they prepared for the transmission. "I'm trained for combat, not conversation." Nelson straightened her formal jacket. "You understood their deception before anyone else. You see what others miss? That's exactly what we need now." President Rivera entered the room, accompanied by Dr. Martinez and Admiral Holt. "It's time," she said. "The Concord Assembly has gathered to hear our address." Wright took a deep breath and stepped onto the transmission platform. Across thousands of light years, her image would appear before representatives of all 27 species in the Concord. "Greetings," she began, her voice steady. "I am Ambassador Susan Wright of Earth. I speak today to correct a misunderstanding that has existed between our peoples." In the Grand Concord Assembly Hall, hundreds of representatives watched in silence. The Tarian delegation, once dominant, had been reduced to a small group seated far from the center. "Humanity has been portrayed to you as primitive and warlike," Wright continued. "These claims were false. We have always sought peaceful contact with other intelligent species." She activated a display showing historical records of Earth's attempts at diplomatic outreach, all rejected or ignored by the Concord leadership. "For years we sent messages of friendship that went unanswered. We offered cultural exchange that was refused. And all the while, we detected increasing military presence at the edges of our solar system." The assembly murmured as this information contradicted what many had been told. "We prepared for defense because we had to," Wright explained. "But our true desire has always been cooperation and mutual understanding." Elder Krav of the Meridian Federation rose. "Why reveal your technology now? Why not earlier? Would you have believed us?" Wright asked simply. "Or would displays of advanced technology have been seen as threats? We chose to appear less developed while we assessed your intentions." This pragmatic answer resonated with many in the assembly. Representative from a species known for their medical achievements spoke next. "Ambassador, your president mentioned human medical technology. What specifically were you offering?" Wright nodded to Dr. Martinez, who joined her on the platform. "We have developed treatments for cellular degradation that affect many of your species," Martinez explained. "Our records show that the Jegzari people have suffered from a pandemic for the past decade. Our treatment could save billions of lives." The Jegzari representatives leaned forward, their elongated faces showing the first signs of hope in years. "This is the cooperation we seek," Wright continued. "We share knowledge that benefits all, rather than technology that threatens." Meanwhile, on Earth, a separate team led by Representative Neil Johnson prepared for direct diplomatic missions to key Concord worlds. Johnson, known for his careful approach to interspecies relations, reviewed files on the 8 species that had expressed interest in closer ties with humanity. "We need to be careful," he told his team. "Many see us as a counterbalance to Taurian influence. We shouldn't let ourselves become pawns in their internal politics." In orbit above Earth, engineers converted the UES Determination into a diplomatic vessel. Captain Frank Daniels watched the modifications with mixed feelings. "From warship to peace ship," he commented to Admiral Holt. "Not what I expected when I took command." "The best victories are the ones where no shots are fired," Holt replied. "Or in our case, just one." Back in the Concord Assembly, Wright concluded her address. "Humanity extends an invitation to all species who wish to establish genuine diplomatic relations. We will host a peace conference on Earth in our ancient city of Geneva, 3 months from today." The assembly erupted in discussion. Such an invitation, to visit the homeworld of a species with technology that could remove moons from existence, was unprecedented. In a quiet corner of the assembly hall, representatives from the Jegzari, the Meridians, and 6 other species met quietly. "We should accept," said the Jegzari representative, "not just for the medical technology but because humanity showed restraint when they could have destroyed the Concord fleet." The Meridian nodded. "They disabled one ship as a warning when they could have eliminated all. That speaks more about their character than any words could. Across the galaxy, the narrative about humans was changing rapidly. No longer seen as primitive barbarians, they were now viewed as a mysterious power that had hidden in plain sight and chosen peace when provoked to war. 3 months later, the ancient city of Geneva buzzed with activity. Representatives from all 27 species of the Concord had arrived for the historic peace conference. Security was tight but unobtrusive, a balance of caution and welcome. In Wang, the renovated Palace of Nations, Ambassador Susan Wright greeted delegates as they arrived. She had grown into her role over the past months, her military background providing a directness that many alien species found refreshing after the complex doublespeak of Concord politics. "Welcome to Earth," she said to each arrival. "We are honored by your presence." The Jixari representatives approached her with special gratitude. The medical treatments Dr. Martinez had provided were already saving millions on their homeworld. "Our people call you the Lifebringers now, the lead," Jixari told Wright. "Songs are being written about Earth doctors." Wright smiled. This was the kind of relationship humanity had always hoped for with alien species. The conference opened with an address from President Rivera. She stood before the assembled delegates, her voice calm and clear. "Today marks a new beginning, not just for Earth but for all our worlds. We gather not as enemies or competitors but as fellow travelers in this vast galaxy." From their diminished position at the back of the hall, the Tarian delegation watched with barely concealed anger. Their dominance in Concord affairs had been severely weakened. High Speaker Voxalith had been removed from power, replaced by a younger, more moderate leader named Kexley. Over the next 6 days, agreements were formed and signed. Earth was formally recognized as a sovereign power with the right to self-determination. Trade routes were established, cultural exchanges planned, and scientific cooperation initiated. On the final day, a new Concord Charter was signed that established principles of mutual respect and non-interference. The document, drafted jointly by human and alien legal experts, created protections for developing species and limitations on military deployments. After the formal proceedings ended, Ambassador Wright found herself in a quiet garden with Trelvak, the new High Speaker from the Meridian Federation, who had replaced the Taurian leadership in Concord affairs. "Your people have changed everything," Trelvak said, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "In just 3 months, power structures that stood for centuries have been reorganized." Wright looked out at the lake, reflecting, the fading light. "That wasn't our intention. Perhaps not, but it was the result." Trelvak's four-fingered hand gestured to the city around them. "I must ask, Ambassador, what does humanity truly want from the galaxy?" Wright considered the question carefully. To explore, to learn, to grow, and perhaps most importantly, to understand how different we all are, and yet how much we share. "We've been looking at the stars for thousands of years, wondering if we were alone. Now that we know we're not, we'd rather have friends than enemies." Trelvak was silent for a moment. "The previous Concord leadership feared you would be like us, using power to dominate others. Instead, you showed power and then chose not to use it. This is uncommon in our experience." "Perhaps that's why we developed in isolation," Wright suggested. "We had time to make our mistakes and learn from them without affecting other species." As they walked back toward the conference hall, Ambassador Jack Nelson approached with news from the Luna facility. "The space-time healing has completed," he told Wright quietly. "The moon is reforming itself. Dr. Martinez says it will be fully restored within a year." This unexpected development seemed fitting. Even the universe itself preferred restoration over destruction. In the following months, the phrase human restraint entered the diplomatic lexicon throughout the galaxy. It signified something that many species had never considered, that the most terrifying response possible was not overwhelming destruction, but the capability for it coupled with the discipline not to use it. Earth established embassies on 12 conquered worlds. The UES determination, now renamed the UES Cooperation, became the flagship of a humanitarian fleet that brought medical aid and disaster relief to planets in need. And in schools across the galaxy, young beings of all species learned a new lesson about the strange mammals from the third planet of a yellow star. Humans had prepared for war not because they wanted it, but precisely because they did not.